and welcome to my channel, Fred Makes Things, and our long-term, year-long sewing project that we're going to discuss today. The title's already told you what it is. Thumbnail probably suggested the idea, but what we're doing is a temperature quilt. Yeah, there's a few different ways of doing these I've seen online, but I'm going to explain to you how I am doing it. So we'll do this in a couple of parts. Part 1, inspiration. Part 2, planning it out. Part 3, the fabric and colors I used. And then part 4, the plan going forward. Okay, so let's just jump into this. Part 1 is inspiration. So since I would say November, or in November, maybe I was scrolling through most likely Instagram, and I started seeing all of these like temperature blankets pop up for crocheting and knitting. I think maybe knitting, crochet, I'm not sure, one or the other. And basically people were talking about like, this is like how far I've gotten in this year's temperature blanket, and or oh look, I finally finished last year's blanket and all this stuff. And I'm like, what are temperature blankets? And basically what the quilters and crocheters were doing was crocheting a row a day of their average temperature in the area that they live in. And I was like, well, that's really cool. And then I started thinking about it. And then I kind of looked up temperature quilts and saw that there are some patterns and stuff out there for temperature quilts as well. And I was like, And then somewhere in December, I forgot that it was like a daily average. And I started thinking about doing one for where I live, New England. Doing the highs and lows of each day. And then I started making these like really big plans and things like that for like laying out the pattern, and like seeing like these cat quilts and things like that, being like, ooh, I could lay it out like that, or all of this stuff. And it got really big in my head. And then come end of December, early January, when I actually needed to start planning this out, I scaled everything back and I decided to do one block each of the high and the low for each day. So at the end of the year, I'll have whatever 365 times 2 is. And then I had to do figure out like colors and styling and stuff like that. So yeah, that's where my inspiration came from. Mainly Instagram, probably a bit of Facebook. And yeah, so then, that was fast. I think this video is going to be quick. Could be. So let's talk part 2 then now, and planning. So that's what these little pages here are. This is the quilting stuff itself. So this is my little project planning book that I have. It has stuff for different things that I've made, different plans that I've had, things like that. But this is all that I have written out for my temperature quilt because I got myself distracted. And basically how this came about is that I had to find a gradient of colors that I liked. And I knew I didn't want to do yellows and greens. I wanted to do blue to red. So blue, purple, and red as my color scheme. So what I did is I went online and I started looking at different choices for picking out gradients. I was going to go to Joann Fabrics and just spend forever figuring out a gradient myself. But then I thought, let's see what else is available first. And so I actually knitted up on Missouri Star Quilts' website, MissouriQuiltCo.com. And I started going through their jelly rolls because I thought I'm not sure the gradient I want, but I know I want a gradient. And I thought maybe a jelly roll would help me out a lot. So I went through their jelly roll selection. Things were on sale. So I ended up ordering the Wilmington Essentials Whimsy 40 Karat Gems option. And I did this because the majority of the colors in this jelly roll were blues and purples, some reds, some pinks, things like that. We also had yellows and greens, brown and grays, stuff like that. But I thought this might be a good starting point. I could order one jelly roll, get it in, and then plan my colors around that, which is what all of this little is here. So I did. I ordered one jelly roll, and then I waited on that to come in, and I still kind of noodled what I wanted my quilt to be. And so then finally, I figured it out. Jelly rolls are 2.5 inch wide by 44 inches long, each of the strips. I got 2 of each color. And so I was like, that's actually probably going to be enough. And so I knew I had my palette down, and while I waited for that to come in, I started thinking about layouts. I knew I wanted to do about a 3 by 3 inch square. And I figured that if I use like 2 colors per square of the jelly roll, right, that will be enough. And I just used the jelly roll mainly so that I could get a nice amount of colors, and also so that I could have some stuff pre-cut for me, so it would make things easier in the future. So yeah, let's talk about the temperature gradient that I went with, why I chose it, and then the size of it too. So first off, my gradient is going from like a deep, it's actually turquoise, to orange. I'm doing, where I live, we typically don't see temperatures below -20, and we also don't see temperatures above plus 30, 35 in the summer. This is in Celsius. I'll have the Fahrenheit numbers up on the screen for you as well. But I did Celsius in increments of 5 because it made sense to me. Because, you know, I grew up thinking in Celsius. So I did Celsius. And what I did is I said, okay, the lowest temperature that I normally see here in New England where I live is about -20 degrees. And the highest degree that I see really is around 30, 35 degrees. So in 5-degree increments, I went -20 to -15, -14 to -10, -9 to -5, -4 to 0. And in Celsius, 0 is your freezing point. And then we started to climb. So 1 to 5 degrees, 6 to 10, 11 to 15, 16 to 20, 21 to 25, 26 to 30, 31 to 35, because we do get those hot days, and then above 35. Anything below -20 is going to be black. Anything above 35 is going to be white. And then everything in between is a temperature, is a gradient. So I'll lay those colors out for you in a second as well. And then, like I said, the size is 3 by 3 inch squares. There's going to be 16 squares across by 23 squares deep down. I'm not sure. So it's going to end up being 48 inches by 69 inches, or 4 feet by 5.7 feet. So it's going to be like the size of a larger lap blanket. I'm probably going to edge it in black or white. That will be determined later on. So basically now what I'm doing is every day I look at the temperature, and I either cut the fabric for it, or I cut and sew the fabric for it. And that's what's coming up. If I miss the temperatures, I've been writing them down, but I'm actually taking screenshots instead. I have a better temperature run guide here as well in my little cat lady notebook. This lives with the quilting stuff. And then this is my quilting setup. I have my rotary cutter. This is a 3.5-inch quilting square. So this is what I use to cut out all of my fabric because it's the perfect square. This is, we'll do the gradient last. This is, actually no, we'll do this last. These are my extra colors that I have that I'm not using. I don't know, they might come in handy later. And then these are my gradients here. I have to order more of each. I suspected that when I ordered it, but it's been verified. So here's the black and the white for the below -20, above plus 35. So here's black and here's white. They just live together separate because, like I said, it's rare that we get below or above those temperatures. I'm not taking into account humidity or wind chill because that would change. And here's my gradient. So here is, I labeled them on some of the selvage. I have 2 strips per section. So here's 31 to 35. Here's 26 to 30. Here's 21 to 25. 16 to 20. 6 to 10. 11 to 15. That was messed up. 1 to 5. 0 to -4, -5 to -9, -10 to -14, and then -15 to -20. So there's no yellow, and there's only like this greeny turquoise color, but that's the variant right there. I really liked keeping them in groupings of 5. Yeah, it's worked out really well for me. So now let's show you the quilt itself, or my progress so far. I'm filming this on January 16th, and I'm missing 2 days, I think, from here. But this is what I have. I started the year at 12 degrees, so that was nice, right? It helps me balance. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, so I need to do 3 days worth. I do them the day after so that the high and the low make sense. And then to keep things from being too much of a mess, I alternate how my lines go. So the high of the day is the larger block and the low of the day is the smaller block. And basically how I do that is if this is going to be 2.5 inches, this is attached to it and then trimmed into the perfect square. So I cut everything using this guy, right? This guy's like this. That's upside down. But this guy is like this, right? And then when I've sewn the block together, I just trim off the excess top, and then that turns into this little thing that I'm working on. I don't know what it's going to be, but this is the excess fabric. So the highs get the larger portion, the lows get the smaller portion, and then I rotate the block. So upright, sideways, upright, sideways, upright, sideways. This one was the same color, high and low, roughly. So it's within a 5-degree difference, right? Upwards, sideways, and on and on and on we go. When I do the next block, I'm going to start like this. sideways facing down, and then upwards, and then same thing. And I'm hoping that by doing that, if my lines don't match, it doesn't matter as much. That's my plan anyway. So yeah, this is where I'm at. As of finishing this, or as of editing and getting this video up, here's a picture of where I'm at now. I've been pretty good at doing everything day by day. I don't have anything cut out for the next 2 days, but that's, or for the previous 2 days, but that's okay. Yeah, so let's talk plans going forward. So, oh, and this is where I keep everything in this tote. So how is this going to look as I go? I'm going to keep track of the weather. I'm going to cut out all of the squares, at least on a daily basis, and keep track of them by labeling them on the back. And then as I sew, I'll attach them to the main quilt. As of today, as I'm filming this, I will have finished one entire row, and then I will be able to start on my next row. When I get the next row finished, I'll sew those 2 rows together, start on my next row after that. It's 16 rows by 23 columns. I don't know, right? 16 squares by 23 squares. There's going to be an odd number at the end of the year. I'm going to use a different color for that, and then like mark the year and all of that jazz somehow, but I don't have to worry about that until the end. So yeah, this is what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to, if all goes well, starting probably today, the day that this airs, I'm going to start posting my progress on Instagram on like a weekly or a bi-weekly basis. That way I think everything can like work out, right? I can keep me on track and keep me moving. So that's my plan anyway. And then monthly, probably at the end of each month, in my last video of the month, for that month, on my last Wednesday's video, I'll do a quick quilt update as well, because it's honestly just cutting and sewing the pieces right now. And I do 100% have to order more fabric. I was going to order it a couple of weeks, or last week, when I realized exactly how much I was going to need, or mathed out roughly how much I was going to need, and it was on sale, and now it's not, and now I'm having a hard time pulling the trigger because it's going to cost me like $100. I don't want to spend that much. But anyway, that's a me problem. So yeah, that's my temperature quilt. I hope it makes sense. If not, ask questions in the comments. I'll try to respond to all of them. I do respond to all of them. I'm a small channel. Have you heard of this stuff before? Have you tried out like a temperature blanket or quilt or something? Do you have tips or suggestions or any of that stuff? Let me know. Let me know if this is also something that you'd consider doing. And if you've come across it on like the various social media platforms, I'd be curious to hear. I only have Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. I've avoided TikTok like the plague, and Twitter sounds like it is a plague. So I've never gotten involved on there either. But let me know what you think in the comments. Also, subscribe if you want to follow the content. Or like I said, Instagram, if all goes well, should be where you can go for more updates. I keep saying I'm going to make Instagram more of a priority, and I don't, but for this quilting content it should be, because I've already really planned that out and thought it through. But anyway, with all that being said, I'm going to say like the video if you like the idea of this, or what have you, and I'll say, yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk with you again soon. Bye!